The most common problem men have nowadays is how to attract women. But this is the truth about you. She pulled away. You chased. She went silent. You over-explained. She tested you, and you failed. Not because you're weak, but because no one taught you the truth. The most powerful thing a man can do is say nothing. This isn't about ignoring her. It's about understanding the game and rising above it. The illusion of communication. Have you ever tried to explain yourself to a woman and felt weaker after every sentence? Like your words, no matter how sincere or sharp, only dug your grave deeper? You thought you were building a bridge, but you were handing her the blueprint to dismantle you. Because here's the truth. Most men have been tricked into believing that communication is the ultimate tool in relationships. Speak your truth, they say. Express your feelings. And while those words sound noble, they are often traps. The more you explain, the more you reveal. The more you reveal, the easier you are to read, to anticipate, to disarm. Women, whether consciously or not, study not just what you say, but why you're saying it. They feel the fear behind your reassurance. They hear the need behind your praise. They sense the instability behind your explanations, and they test it ruthlessly. You see, women don't fall in love with clarity. They fall in love with stability. Not the kind you broadcast, but the kind you embody. And nothing embodies stability like silence. A man who needs to explain himself is insecure. A man who needs to be validated is still a boy. But the man who holds the line without a word, that man is not just respected. He's remembered. Nietzsche once said, "The voice of beauty speaks softly." Why? Because true power doesn't scream. It doesn't need to. It whispers, and it makes the world lean in. You want to outsmart a woman? Stop broadcasting. Start containing. Let her wonder. Let her guess. Because in that space of not knowing, her attraction grows. Not because you're withholding, but because you're unshakable. Stillness is not passivity. It's dominance in its highest form. And silence is not absence. It's presence without apology. Most men are addicted to being understood. But the most powerful men, they don't need to be. They already understand themselves. The feminine test. Why she pulls away. It starts small. A delayed reply. A shift in tone. A sudden silence where warmth used to live. Most men feel it and panic. They rush in to fix, to ask, to explain, to win her back. But what they don't see is that this moment, this space she's creating, is not a rejection. It's a test. The feminine is fluid, emotional, and deeply intuitive. She doesn't always test you on purpose. She tests you because it's in her nature. To feel safe, a woman must feel the man in front of her is stable, not just financially or socially, but spiritually. She wants to know that when her waves crash, you don't drown. That when she spins, you stay still. So she pulls away, not to punish you, but to see. Will you chase? Will you collapse? Or will you hold your ground? Most men fail here. They confuse her test for cruelty. They start negotiating their worth, explaining themselves, trying harder, and with every attempt to pull her closer, they push her further away. Why? Because chasing affirms her fear, that your center depends on her attention, that your peace is conditional, and nothing kills attraction faster than a man who trades his dignity for a reply. But the man who doesn't flinch, the one who senses the shift but doesn't panic, who continues his mission, his rhythm, his silence, that man doesn't lose her, he draws her back. Not with effort, but with energy. Not with noise, but with gravity. This is what most men don't understand. A woman doesn't want to lead. She wants to feel a force stronger than her emotion. And when she tests and finds it, when she pulls away and sees you're still there, still solid, still unfazed, she feels something deeper than attraction. She feels trust. The myth of being understood. Men are obsessed with being understood. It's wired into us. We think, if she just understood how much I care, if she just knew my intentions, she'd stay. But here's the uncomfortable truth. She does understand. She hears your words. She gets your meaning. But she's not reacting to your message. She's reacting to your frame. You could say all the right things, write the most poetic apology, make the most rational argument, and still lose her. Because in her eyes, the moment you try to convince, you confess weakness. Women don't fall for logic. They fall for gravity. They fall for the man whose reality is so intact, so deeply rooted, that he doesn't need to be understood. That kind of man doesn't chase comprehension. He expects alignment. And if she doesn't align, he walks. Why does this work? Because needing to be understood is a child's plea. It says, please accept me. Please validate me. Please love me the way I am. But masculine energy isn't about asking. It's about offering. You show up, you hold frame, and if she's the right match, she'll feel it. Not because you told her, but because she couldn't ignore it. Look at the great figures throughout history. The ones who commanded respect without saying a word. The ones whose presence shifted rooms. They didn't argue for their worth. They didn't prove their case. They were the case. When you stop trying to be understood, you stop living through her lens. And that's when she sees you for real, not as a performer, not as a pleaser, but as a presence. A woman doesn't want a man who explains who he is. She wants a man who is who he is, fully, without apology. So the next time you feel the urge to justify, clarify, plead, pause. Let the silence say it all, because the man who doesn't need her to understand him is the man she finally begins to understand. Detachment, the ultimate power move. Detachment is misunderstood. It's not about indifference. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about power. The quiet, invisible kind that shapes reality without force. The kind that women feel but can't explain. Most men are emotional responders. She pulls away, and they chase. She accuses, and they defend. She withdraws, and they panic. Every time the message is the same. You have power over me. Detachment is the antidote. It's not silence as a tactic. It's silence as a truth. The truth that your peace doesn't depend on her mood, that your identity isn't defined by her attention, that you don't need her to choose you to feel like a man. You see, women have an exquisite radar for dependency. The moment your energy clings, the moment your gaze pleads, she feels it. Not always consciously, but she senses the imbalance. And the feminine instinct doesn't lean into that. It pulls away from it. But when you detach, authentically, not performatively, you flip the script. You become the one force she cannot bend. You become the first man in her life who doesn't orbit her. And that changes everything. She will call you cold, distant, emotionally unavailable. Don't flinch, those aren't insults. They're revelations. They reveal that her usual patterns no longer work, that you've risen above the arena she's used to dominating. This isn't about winning a battle. It's about exiting the war. Because when you detach, you stop competing for her affection. You stop auditioning for her approval. And you start inviting her into a space she's never experienced before. A relationship where she doesn't have control over your center. Women don't want to be your god. They want to feel your gravity, but they can't feel it if you're still emotionally orbiting them. Detach, and your silence becomes sacred. Your space becomes rare, and your attention, when finally given, becomes the most valuable thing in her world. The final move, mastery without words. This is where everything comes together. You've walked through silence. You've held your frame under pressure. You've stopped chasing. You've learned to detach. And now you're here at the final move. The truth is, outsmarting women without saying a word isn't about women at all. It's about mastery of self. Because once you reach a certain level of clarity, of composure, of stillness, your very presence begins to speak louder than any sentence ever could. And she feels it. She feels it when you don't react. She feels it when your eyes don't flinch. She feels it when you don't need to win her. That calm in your chest, that is what breaks through her defenses. That is what makes her question every man that came before you. Because none of them could sit in their own silence and still be powerful. Words are for men who still need to explain themselves. Presence is for the ones who have nothing left to prove. When you reach this place, you become magnetic, not because of what you do, but because of what you've stopped doing. You stop seeking, you stop persuading, you stop performing. And in that space, women begin to lean in, not to tame you, but to understand you. The final move is not a tactic. It's not a manipulation. It's the death of every part of you that ever needed to perform for love. And what's left is unshakable. You want to outsmart women? Don't play their game. Transcend it. Become the man whose silence carries more depth than another man's monologue. The man who holds his dignity in every breath. The man who doesn't explain why he walked away, because walking away was the explanation. No begging, no bargaining, no breakdowns, just mastery. And mastery never announces itself. It simply stands, alone if necessary, silent always, unmoved forever. And when she sees that, not just hears it, but feels it, that's when you win, and you never even had to say a word.